Welcome to the channel. So in this video I'm going to be doing a review of the Ender-3 S1 Pro. I'm super excited about this because I've always wanted one of these since they came out. You know, they've been out for a while now and I was finally able to get one. So the Pro is like an update to the S1. You know, they share the same overall structure of the bones, but there are some key differences. One is that the Pro has a PEI build sheet, whereas the S1 has like a build tack surface. The Pro comes with an all metal extruder, whereas the S1 has like plastic in theirs. It also has a 300-degree hot end, so you know you can print basically anything on it. It also has a touch screen, whereas the standard S1 has a rotary, kind of like on a Ender-3 V2. And then lastly, it has a light. And that light is just crazy bright. It's really nice. But without further ado, let's go ahead and start the review. So here's a look at the main board that's in the S1 Pro. You can see you've got ferrules on your power connectors, which is nice. I'm trying to find the actual version number. I don't see the actual version number on this board anywhere. But what's important to note about this one is that there are two variants. So there's the STM32 F401, which is what I have, and then there's the F103. And if you look at the chip, you can actually tell this, but some chips don't have it on there. So if you don't see it on the chip, look at your firmware version that it's running, and the last digits will tell you which one you have. Okay, so here's a view of the front of the printer. Now it has a full-size SD slot, which I'm not sure why they did that, but they did. And it has a USB-C connector, which is nice that they're migrating to that now. Here is your tensioner for your Y-axis. It does come with yellow springs, which is nice. You know, they're tighter than regular, standard springs. The bed has a really nice, strong magnet on it, as you can see here. Overall, it's really good aesthetic. I really like it. There's a parts tray over on this side. Again, nice touches. So here's a look at the X tensioner. Now, you know, the thing works exactly like it did before, but they've done a really nice job of changing the aesthetic of it. You know, I like all of these curves that they've done. I really like how they've flattened out the extrusions here. They've carried that over to the actual gantry arm as well. You know, it's really nice aesthetic. This is a look at the left side of the X-axis. And again, you know, they've just carried that same look over here. Again, I love it. I love the way it looks. This also houses your end stop. So here's a look at the probe, which is a CR Touch, and this is the cooling fan for your hot end. I think they've done a great job in packaging this entire thing together. You know, it's such a small unit. Okay, so here's a look at the other side of the hot end. Now this here is your parts cooling fan. It has this weird angle, so you can't really see your nozzle very well. Here's the extruder motor. Here's the actual extruder itself, which is really nice. Here's the gear that you see is a little turn gear. Here's the arm to allow you to put filament in it. And right here is a tensioner. So you turn this little screw to tighten or loosen the grab on the filament. And here you can see your hot end connectors. It's all really nice. It's all modular, so it's easy to change things in and out. Okay, so here's a view from underneath, and you can see your nozzle here. Like I said, it's kind of difficult to actually see your nozzle when it's on the bed because of the angle of this fan. So here's a look at your filament runout sensor. It's good and loose, you know, the way it's mounted, so you shouldn't have any problems with it dragging or anything on your filament. Here's your filament spool holder. It's interesting, there are no screws, it's just held on with tension. And then here is your light. There's a switch over here on the side. This light is really nice and it's super bright. See, here it is on. You know, sometimes they mount lights up around the nozzle. Yeah, they shouldn't do it that way. They should do it like this. This works fantastic. Best light I've ever seen on a printer. Okay, so here's a look at the light on, and you can see how it illuminates pretty much everything in this area. Now, I guess underneath the nozzle, you know, it is kind of in shadow. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. Great light. So here's a look at the back of the machine. You know, I think Creality's done a great job as far as wire management goes. Here's a look at your dual Z. This is your switcher for your power supply, and then here's obviously your plug. And again, overall, I just think they've done a great job as far as, you know, keeping it nice and tidy. Wire management was done really well with this. This is a nice beefy cable for your bed. There's good tension relief on it. I mean, again, I think they've just done a great job on this machine overall. So here's a look at the upper back of the machine. You can see they do have a belt sink between your two Z rods, which is nice, and this will keep your, you know, left and right side of your X gantry in time with each other. Okay, so lastly, let's talk about the firmware that's running on this machine. Now, it has a nice touchscreen. It's nice and bright, it's responsive, works very well. I've had zero issues with it. You can see it has a nice clean interface. And they seem to be doing regular updates actually, which is very nice to see. They just released one as of the time of filming this. Anyway, if you go to ready, and then it's going to take a bit because it wants to home whenever you hit the ready button. But while it's doing that, you know, again, it's always nice when the vendor is actually actively updating and adding features to your printer. I know a lot of times people think, you know, it's they push it out the door and then they forget about it. But at least with this model, it doesn't seem like Creality's doing that, or I haven't seen that, because like I said, they are releasing new features, adding new features to this printer. Okay, so, you know, again, on the ready screen, here you can move your machine around. You can home X and Y, or you can home Z. You can increment them up and down, left and right, and then you can change the amount that you move them. Under in and out, this is where you would do filament in and out, set your nozzle temperature, and then how much filament you want to extrude or retract. Manual, this is where you can basically set all kinds of stuff like temperatures for hot end or your bed, change your setup for PLA or ABS, or turn your fan on or off. The cooling button actually turns fan to 100% and nozzle and bed to 0. Now under settings, again, we have our PLA settings, ABS settings. We have leveling, which this is where you would go to actually do your leveling. Now here it shows me what my bed mesh currently looks like. And then now it's actually homing and doing its thing over to the side that you can't see. But you would hit your auto level button and then start, and then it'll go through its process to actually generate this mesh. But from here, under auxiliary level, this is what you want to actually do first, because you want to get your bed relatively flat. This is where you'll set your Z offset. You can see I have it to -1.95, and then each of these numbers is the order that you want to go to actually level out your bed. I'm not sure why they have the center first as 1, but anyway. Under advanced settings, there are all kinds of things that you can change in here, and you can restore it to default. Like under movement, you can change your acceleration, your cornering speed, which is jerk, as some people might know it, and then your max speed. Sorry, my camera is going in and out as far as auto focusing goes, so just kind of bear with me. Now, you know, again, you can come in here and you can change all of these things. I haven't had to do any of that. You know, the default setup seems to be pretty good. Again, I haven't had to change any of these, but having the option to set them is just nice. Anyway, a new function is AutoPid, which kind of works and kind of doesn't. Hopefully they'll have a fix for this in a future release. Set PID manually, this will allow you to actually go in and change all of the values if you know what they're supposed to be. You know, you can hook it to a console or something and run G commands to figure that out. Edit leveling, this is what I had talked about earlier. You can come in here and you can change any of your mesh points, you know, raise them up or down, you know, if you think it needs to be done. And then lastly, they have switched laser engraving, which they allow you to hook a laser to this system now, which again is kind of interesting. Now under About, I had mentioned this under the motherboard section. If you look at the last two here, that F4, that tells me that this is an F401 versus an F103. So that's a way to tell which motherboard you have. Okay, so moving on to actual prints. Well, you know, you couldn't have a 3D printer without the Chinese cat. So let's see how this guy turns out. Okay, let's see what we got here. And you know, this was all pre-sliced on the SD card. Let's see if I can get this guy up here. I just love this cat in this purple. Yeah, you can see this is it's a pretty good print. That's probably why they have this cat on there, because he always turns out great. Okay, so this one is an odd one. It's some kind of coin. See how it turns out. Okay, what do we got? It looks like it's a Creality coin. It says Ender, and that looks really nice. Nice and smooth. Oh, that does not look really nice. They probably should have put some type of support for it. But anyway, I'm not sure why they put a Bitcoin symbol, but okay. Again, it does not look very good at all. Now the top side, that looks fantastic. But the Bitcoin side, not so much. So this seems to be like the new trend for some reason. Everyone's including bunny rabbits. So let's see how this guy turns out. All right, a little bit of stringing. That's probably the filament. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, he looks really good. You know, these round surfaces are turning out really nice on this printer. A little bit between his ears. You can see it there between his ears. A little rough. But other than that, I'd say he looks really good. Yeah. Yeah, again, the rounded surfaces, I guess that's a good showcase piece because they look really nice. Really smooth. I mean, overall, he looks really smooth. Good job. Okay, so we've printed everything that was on the SD card except for a little handle, which is already on the printer, so we don't need it. Now, here we are in Orca Slicer. Orca Slicer does have a profile, a built-in profile for the S1 Pro. So we have that loaded up. We will use all of the defaults, you know, as is. One thing to note is I am changing the first layer height to 0.28 because that's what I have the machine set up to. So that is the one change I have done to this profile. Other than that, everything is stock as it comes in Orca Slicer. Now we have our benchy loaded, we have it sliced. Here's our times, and we will see, you know, it looks about average, you know, for a standard benchy. Let's go ahead and save this guy, export it, put it on our SD card, and then we will get to printing. And let's see how Orca does with the S1 Pro. So here we are printing. Let's see how this guy turns out. Okay, let's see what we got. All in all, there's a little bit of stringing, but again, that might be the filament. You know, again, the filament has not been tuned. Just loaded the default profile. You can see there's a bit of stringing on here. Again, though, that very well could be the filament. But all in all, I would say it looks pretty good. I did use this silk filament as an added test to see how things look, and you know, again, that's probably why you're getting the stringing that you're seeing. All in all, man, this benchy looks pretty good. There's that, you know, hull line. Seems to be a normal characteristic for a benchy nowadays. And you know, that, like I said, that just that stringing, that's really the only thing wrong that I can see, well, other than the hull line, but that's not a fault of the printer. All right, good job. Okay, final thoughts on the Ender-3 S1 Pro. I mean, I like it. I'm a Creality fan, though. You know, this is like my 6th Creality printer. I like it. You know, I think it looks fantastic. It has a great aesthetic to it. It prints wonderfully, as you can see by all the items we've done here today. Zero problem. Zero problem. If I have to nitpick it, there are a couple of issues with the firmware. You know, one, the auto PID tuning, at least, you know, at the time of recording this video, doesn't work correctly. You can set the PID for the bed, or sorry, you can set the PID for the hot end, but you cannot set the temperature for the bed. And it automatically tunes to 110 degrees. And to make it worse, you can't stop it once it starts. So you have to wait for that entire cycle to finish. Not good, not good. And you know, if you're going to release things like that, you should make sure that it's going to work properly. Now, there are 2 revisions of this printer. You know, have 2 different motherboards in it. Perhaps that had something to do with it. I don't think so. I think it just properly wasn't tested, or wasn't tested properly, I should say. Other than that, you know, I like the printer, but I think it's too expensive. You know, for the price you're paying for this printer, a little bit more and you could get a whole lot more of a printer. You know, so that's something else to keep in mind. But anyhow, you know, I still give it 2 thumbs up. It is a fantastic printer, you know, at least in my mind. But if you like content like this, please like and subscribe. And as always, happy printing.